I just looked at my clock and I thought, why is it so slow? I mean, it says 3 o'clock and, you know, it's 7:30 when this show starts. So, you are welcome to the matinee. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. It's nice to see you. If you haven't been here before, we need to do a little bit of housekeeping. So there is a bathroom or a loo behind the Portland Storytellers Guild banner. We would prefer if you didn't use that during the performance, because we'll stop talking and just wait. But if you do have an urgent need, then you just go to the back of the room through the curtains. I feel like, you know, a flight attendant. Turn left. And then you'll find that there are, you go past the stairs and then into there's a little music room, and there's a bathroom at the back of that. But there's also a bathroom up the stairs if you're feeling agile. So there's 2 out there, so that's really, you know, much better than that during the performance. But please do use it in the interval and everything. We're delighted to be at Artichoke Music. The people here are just wonderful. And we have Gary, who's on our sound system today. And we have Christopher, who's at the bar. And Christopher will be delighted to serve you with refreshments, both nibbly type refreshments and drinks during the interval. So please go and see Christopher, because we like to support Artichoke Music. And now, we want you to turn off your phones, please. So no phones, because otherwise we might walk off with them and then I've got a bag somewhere I can collect them. And I want to introduce you to my colleagues. The Crones. Dancing with Death at 3, which is now, and 7:30 tonight. We're hoping like hell we'll dance into heaven. You're welcome. We welcome you here. And the stories we tell, which will be inspiring, thoughtful, and funny as well. You see, Death, he is stealthy. He's coming. We know. But till then, we'll keep dancing. We'll go on with the show. Now, you know what? I wrote this poem and I just missed out a whole bit of it for you. So I want to introduce you to Julie Strozyk. I'm Anne Penfound, and this is Barbara. Now, the bit of the poem that I missed was, we're going to be dancing the dance macabre. Yes. And as luck will have it, Barbara is the first storyteller this evening.
Old man Jinx looked really bad. His wife was really worried about him. She wanted to call the doctor, but old man Jinx wanted none of that. But still, he just was looking bad, so she went ahead and called, and the doctor came and tried to examine old man Jinx, but he just was having none of it. The doctor looked at him and said, "You are dying, man." He said, "That ain't so." He said, "You don't have a heartbeat." Well, that just made old man Jinx mad enough to throw the doctor out. But sure enough, in the morning, when old man Jinx' wife woke up, laying next to her was old man Jinx as dead as a doornail. Well, she called the undertaker, and the undertaker came and put him in a nice box, took him to the church. They had a lovely, lovely service, and they took him out to the cemetery and buried him. But the very next morning, as a policeman on his way to work, there sat old man Jinx on the stone wall around the cemetery. And The policeman looked at him and he said, well, is that you? "'Tis," said old man Jinks. "I thought you died." "'Tain't so," said old man Jinks. "Well, we buried you yesterday." "Well, do I look buried?" said old man Jinks. "Well, no." So the policeman went on, and he went straight to old man Jinks' house and told his wife, "Old man Jinks is sitting on the cemetery wall up there." And she said, "Oh, you pay him no mind. He is as dead as a doornail." Well, the next day, the shopkeeper was coming by, and there sat old man Jinks. The shopkeeper looked at him and he said, "Well, is that you, old Jinks?" And old man Jinks said, "It is." And he said, "Well, I heard you was sick." "Well, I was," said old man Jinks. "I heard you died." "'Tain't so," said old man Jinks. "Well, didn't we bury you yesterday?" He said, "Do I look buried?" "Well, no," the shopkeeper said, and he went on his way, kind of scratching his head. Well, the next day, the postman came pedaling by on his bicycle, and old man Jinks saw him and said, "Hey there, what's new?" Well, the postman stopped, and he looked around and said, "Well, what's new?" "Well, not much. Not much is... Well, I did hear old man Jinks died." Old man Jinks said, "'Tain't so." And the postman said, "Well, how do you know that?" He says, "'Cause I'm old man Jinks, and I ain't dead." "Oh," said the postman. He got back on his bicycle, and he pedaled out of there as fast as he could and went straight to the pub. Went in to the pub man, and he said, "There's old man Jinks sitting up on the wall, says he's not dead." Well, the barkeep said, "Well, that's not true. He's as dead as a doornail." "Well, somebody better go up and tell him," said the postman. Well, this went on for weeks, months, and they didn't. Finally, the people in the town said, we need to do something about this. So they had a meeting, and they thought, well, maybe the first funeral just didn't take. So they decided they'd do another funeral. They went up the hill, and they dug a big hole, and this time they put a big granite stone there at the end of it. And old man Jinks watched this whole thing, and he got off the wall, and he walked over, and he looked at that stone. Old man Jinks, here lies old man Jinks. Born 1901, died 2001. Oh, he couldn't believe his eyes. He read it again, read it 2 or 3 times, and he said, well, I mean, if it's written in stone, it must be true. So he climbed into the grave and pulled the dirt in over him, and that was the end of the problem. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce you to our next storyteller, Julie Strozyk.
Mary Colleen was a lovely young woman. She was the eldest daughter in a rather large Irish family. Her father was the village gravedigger. And he was getting on in years, and he really wished he had a way of retiring because he just wasn't as strong as he used to be, but he had to support his family. One night he came home after a long day's work, and he sat down in his favorite chair. "Oh, we had a lot of work to do today," he said. "Oh, old man McGillicuddy, we put him in the grave, but it got too dark for us to fill the grave in. We'll have to take care of it tomorrow. Oh, and on top of it all, I forgot my walking stick. Oh, I'm gonna feel it in the morning, and wish I had that stick." Well, Mary heard him, and she said, "Oh, Dad, don't worry about it. I'll go fetch it for you." "Oh, Mary, you don't have to do that." "Oh, I will. Just sit tight. I'll be back. No time at all." And so off Mary went to the churchyard. And when she got there she saw the grave, the open grave of old Mr. McGillicuddy, known as the village miser. Well, she looked at it, didn't think much of it, looked around, saw her father's walking stick, went to grab it, but all of a sudden she felt like she couldn't move. She was frozen in her place. And as she watched, the coffin lid opened, and old Mr. McGillicuddy sat up. "You, Mary Colleen, Take me up on your back. I can't do that. You're a full-grown man. I can't lift you. Take me up on your back. And so she took the corpse up on her back. Now, he said, walk into the village. She didn't want to. She wanted to throw him down and run away, but she couldn't. She began walking back to the village. They came to the first house. Go inside. But she was compelled to do so, and so she walked up to the door. No, wait. There's holy water in that house. Take me to the next house. And so she did. But as they got up on the porch again, he said, no, there's holy water in this house too. Take me to the next house. Well, the third house, Mary knew, belonged to the richest man in the village. Oh, I dare not go there. Surely there'll be holy water in that house. I smell no holy water. Take me inside. And so she did. Now, find me something to eat. Well, Mary went into the kitchen. She set the dead man down on a chair, and she looked around, trying to find something, but all she could find was a small bowl of dried porridge. This is all there is, she said. That'll never do. Find me a sharp knife. And so she found him a sharp knife. The dead man took it into his bony hand. Now, carry me upstairs. I dare not take you upstairs. It'll wake the family. They'll not awaken. Take me upstairs. And so Mary climbed the stairs. She brought the bowl of porridge with her because she couldn't put it down. When they got to the top of the stairs, to the upper landing, take me into the first room. And she did. In that room slept the 3 sons of the rich man, all in different beds. Take me to the first bed. She went towards the first bed, trying to be as quiet as she could. The dead man reached out. He grabbed the hand of the boy in the bed and took the knife and sliced the finger and then squeezed the blood from the finger into the bowl of porridge. Then he went to the next bed, sliced the finger, squeezed the hand into the bowl of porridge. And at each stop, the hand that had been squeezed turned as white as snow. It was obvious that the boys would never live again. Carry me to the third bed, the dead man said. And she did. And again, he squeezed the hand until it was white. Take me back downstairs. They went back to the kitchen. Now prepare the porridge the way it should be. Mary didn't know how she got through it, but she mixed up the porridge, heated it a bit. Make 2 plates. She did. The dead man took 1 plate. He was anxious to get it. He was hungry. And he took a spoon and he began to eat. Now, eat your share. And he gave her the 2nd plate. Mary took the plate She watched the dead man, waited until he was thoroughly absorbed in his eating, and then she took off her headscarf and she tied it round her neck, and she began to pretend to eat. She lifted the spoon to her mouth, but dropped the porridge into the scarf. She did this again and again until at last her plate was empty. And then, when she was sure that the dead man was not watching, she took the scarf off her neck and dropped it under the kitchen table. "Now," said the dead man, "take me up on your back again and take me back to my grave." Mary took the dead man up on her back again, and by this time she could barely move. Carrying that corpse was like carrying a bag full of stones. It was awful. But she walked out of the house, and as they were walking down the road back towards the churchyard, she heard a strange noise. It was the dead man. He was chuckling to himself. Ah, Mary Colleen. Do you see that field over there, the one with the cairn of stones in it? Yes. That's where I buried all my money. Nobody knows that, and nobody ever will. Mary didn't say anything. She just kept on walking. "Well," she finally said, that's a great secret you've told me." "Oh, yes, it is a great secret, and so it will stay." Tell me another secret. Those 3 boys back at the rich man's house, is there any hope for them at all?" The dead man laughed again. "Oh, there would have been. Oh, if you had taken just a pinch of that porridge and put it into the mouths of each one of them, they would have lived. But I ate my share, and you ate yours, and now they're gone forever." Mary kept walking. "Hurry up," said the dead man. "I must be back in my grave before the cock crows." They finally got to the graveyard. Mary lifted the man up and laid him back in his coffin. But before she could reach out and close the coffin lid, the man reached out and grabbed hold of her ankle. "Oh, no," he said. "You're not going anywhere. You've eaten the food of the dead, and you're going to lay with me in my grave forever." And he pulled, and she fought him, and she was sure she wasn't sure if she could get away from him or not, but at the last minute, the cock crowed, and the dead man let her go, fell back in the grave, and she slammed the coffin lid. Oh. She began walking back home. First, she picked up her dad's walking stick, so he'd be sure to have it. But as she walked, she thought she heard weeping. And she did. As soon as she got near the rich man's house, she could hear his parents weeping and mourning for their poor lost sons. She knocked on the door, and they answered, "Why do you come to us now, girl? We've lost our sons. They're dead." "I'm so sorry," she said. But are you sure? Could you let me look at them? You never know. Oh, woman, you're a fool. The parents went, they sat in the drawing room and wept some more. Mary made her way back into the kitchen. She went to the table, and underneath, she picked up her scarf that was still full of the bloody porridge. She went upstairs as quietly as she could. And when she got into the bedroom, she took a pinch of that porridge and put a pinch into each of the mouths of those 3 boys. And they opened their eyes, and their color came back, and they sat up. And they began to speak. The parents downstairs heard the commotion and came running upstairs. Oh my God, it's a miracle. Oh, girl, we owe you everything. What can we give you to say thank you for this? Well, there's really only one thing I'd like, Mary said. That field that's near your house, could you give that to my family? Well, that silly field, it's full of nothing but thistles. Why would you possibly want that? Oh, please, humor me. Give me, just give it to me, and I'll be happy. And so, Mary got the field. She went home to her parents, who were very worried about her. She'd been out all night. But she came in, handed her father his walking stick, and she said, Dad, as soon as you can and as soon as you're feeling a bit better, I want you to go to that field near the rich man's house, and I want you to dig under that pile of stones. Why would I do that? Oh, trust me, Dad. You'll be glad you did. And so that's exactly what happened. Her father dug under that great cairn of stones, and he found a huge chest full of gold. Enough gold to take care of his family for the rest of his life, and then some. And Mary, as for her, well, she inherited a good deal of that money herself when she came of age. And she actually married one of the rich man's sons. And so it was that the 2 of them had a very happy life together. She was a fine housekeeper. She'd learned a lot from her mother. And she only had 2 main rules in her house. Number 1, always keep holy water in the house. Oh, and number 2, never make porridge. Our next teller is Anne Penfound.
I knew there was a reason I didn't eat porridge. This story that I found had I found this story and it had all the hallmarks of a Once Upon a Time story. You know, it had a quest and a plot and princes and princesses, and I don't tell Once Upon a Time stories. But a bit later on, I read the same story from another source, and I thought, oh, look, it's got a different ending. So I'm going to tell it to you today with 2 endings, and you get to choose what ending you would like. I'm not going to ask you to do the raise your hand bit, because I'm just going to let you think to yourselves which one you would like to end with. I like them both. Prince Felipe was the only son of a king. And as was the custom in those days, he got the best of tutors, the best of education. And when he was old enough, he was sent out to learn the ways of the world so that he could come back and take over his father's kingdom and rule it wisely. But when he came back, something wasn't quite right with him. His father looked at him and he thought to himself, I don't know what's wrong with this boy. Perhaps he's lovesick. I mean, he was morose and he didn't speak much and he just moped around. So he said, well, I will make you a match. Then you will have a fine queen and you can rule together. But that wasn't the problem. While he'd been wandering around learning how to be a wise king, he'd heard a rumor about a land, the land of immortality. And he thought to himself, I don't think I want to grow old. I would like to find this land. I'm going to go on a quest to find this land of immortality, and then I will live forever. So when his father tried to matchmake just to solve what he thought was the problem, the prince said, no, father, I've heard about a land of immortality. Do you know about it? No, said his father. I only considered growing old and dying. And you would take over my kingdom so that I could have a good old rest. And me and my queen, we could reacquaint ourselves. Well, father, I am sorry to tell you that I have made up my mind. I'm going to go on a quest. I'm going to go on a quest to find the land of immortality. And what's more, I'm going tomorrow. And he did, leaving the king and the queen bereft and not knowing whether they will ever see their son again, and having to carry on reigning their kingdom until they passed from this world. Well, the prince was on a quest. He set off, and he traveled far into magical lands, into lands that were so beautiful. Oh. And one day, he was just about to make his entrance into a new city when he happened to see a tree in a field. And on top of the tree, there was an eagle, a big eagle. And it was shaking that tree for all it was worth. Back and forth, and then grabbing hold with its talons and its beak and flapping those amazing wings, strong wings, pulling the tree as though for all the world he was trying to pull the tree out from its roots. The prince, as you would, what is that eagle doing? I can't believe that it looks as though it's trying to pull the tree up. The eagle saw the prince looking, and he flew down. And the eagle spoke to the prince. He said, "Why are you staring?" Well, it looks as though you're trying to pull the tree up from the roots, and that is the strangest sight that I have ever seen. Oh, well, I am an eagle by day only. My daughter and I are under an enchantment. I am an eagle by day, and my task is to pull that tree out by the roots. And it will take me 600 years to complete. My daughter rules the kingdom in my stead. And then at night, I change back into a king and I go home, go back to the palace, to my family. Who are you? Well, my name is Prince Philippe, and I'm on a quest to find the land of immortality. And that's your job next time I say it. I hope so. Immortality. I haven't heard of such a place. Surely 600 years is long enough to live. I mean, who really needs to be immortal? Besides, you look hungry, you look tired. Come back with me, Prince Philippe, to my palace. My daughter, Princess Annabelle, might change your mind. She's very beautiful, you know. And so the prince went back to the palace with the king, and Princess Annabelle was indeed very beautiful. And she said, "Why do you want to be immortal? You could stay here. You should marry me. We could rule the kingdom together." Well, it was tempting. I mean, she was witty. And she was quite a wise young woman. And to say the least, she was absolutely beautiful. But he said, "No, I am on a quest to find the land of immortality." Thank you. And I cannot, that is my task. And so I must leave. I beg you, I'm sorry. She said, "Well, I want you to remember me. I'll give you this gift. It's a small box. It's got my portrait in it so that you'll remember what I look like. And it's a wishing box. It's a magic box. When you hold this box and you wish, and you have to be able to see what you wish for. So if you wish to be right over there where that tower is, and you can see it, you wish to be at the tower and whoosh, you're there. If you wish to be on that mountain up there, whoosh, you can be on the top of the mountain, as long as you can see it." What a wonderful gift. I mean, he set off the very next day and he wished himself here and there. And then he came to a town which was sort of hemmed in by mountains. And he couldn't wish himself anywhere except on the top of the mountain. And he thought, well, if I wish myself on the top of the mountain, then there'll be a panorama that I can look out and see where I want to go next. So he wished. On the top of the mountain, he landed. And the view was amazing. There were so many places to choose from. He was just about to make another wish when he realized that he wasn't the only person on top of the mountain. There was an old man, and he was doing something very strange. He had a spade, and he was digging up the earth from the top of the mountain. And there was a basket at his feet, and he was digging up the earth and putting it into that basket. And when the basket was full, he would take it over and tip it so that it slid downhill to the bottom, the base of the mountain. And then he would bring the basket back, fill it back up, tip it over, bring it back, fill it up. And the prince went, and of course the old man noticed he was staring. He came over and he said, "Why are you staring at me?" "Well, it looks," said Prince Felipe, "as though you're trying to dig up the mountain." Silly thing to do, isn't it? Dig up the mountain. "Well, it's like this," said the old man. "I and my daughter, we are under an enchantment. My task by day is to dig up this mountain. I have to flatten it till it's made a flat plain. And then I can pass from this world. My task is going to take me 800 years. Who are you? And what are you doing on the top of the mountain?" "Well, I'm Prince Philippe, and I'm on a quest. I'm on a quest to find the land of immortality." There can't be such a thing. And as they were talking, the dusk began to fall, and the old man, he turned into a king, and he said, "That's what I do every day. My crown, I am the king. You come back with me. Come with me. My daughter would love to meet you. She's quite beautiful, you know. She might be interested in you staying. In fact, I'm sure she would, because you're a very eligible young man. The prince went back, and he met Princess Beatrix. She was just beautiful. She was just beautiful. She was very witty and wise also. And she peppered him with questions. She wanted to know what he was doing, where he was going. And he said, "My name is Prince Philippe, and I'm on a quest to find the land of immortality." Yes. I'm afraid I cannot stay. I have to decline your proposal of marriage. "Oh," she said, surely, 800 years. My father and I are going to live 800 years. Surely that's long enough. Normally, yes, but this quest is foremost in my mind. Tomorrow I will leave. I don't want you to forget me. I want you to take this gift," she said, and this is a box. This is not a box. This is a ring. It's a gold ring, and it's a wishing ring. When you put this ring on, if you wish to be at the end of the world, then you'll be at the end of the world. So guess what? The next morning he put that ring on, and he wished to be at the end of the world. He didn't wish. I don't know why he didn't want to wish to go to immortality. I mean, to me, that was a very foolish thing. I thought, why not? But in the story, he goes one more step. So he's at the end of the world. And in that world, it's a most strange place. I mean, you know how we have houses? Well, they don't. They have palaces. And all the people in this world speak a different language. None of the 23 languages that the prince got during his education. So until he found someone that was sort of kind of dressed similar to him, and he tried his own language, then this guy said, I can tell you where you are. You are in the Blue Kingdom. And this land is ruled by a queen, Queen Carolina. So he was taken to the palace to meet Queen Carolina, and he found out that she was on a quest. I mean, she wasn't on a quest. I'm getting so excited about this story that I'm advancing rather fast. Let us backtrack a bit. She's in the kingdom, the Blue Kingdom. She rules the Blue Kingdom. So she asked him to come and have a look at her palace. Now, she was beautiful, of course, you know that. She was also witty and wise. And she was under an enchantment. And her enchantment was that when she showed him the palace, she said, look in this room. And it was a very small room. It was full of sewing needles. And she said, I have to use all these sewing needles. And only when they're all used and broken can I pass from this world. And it's going to take me 1,000 years to do that. Who are you and what are you doing? And Prince Philippe told her about the quest to find the land of immortality. Thank you very much. But she said, I mean, I just think that's ridiculous, the land of immortality. You don't want to be immortal. 1,000 years is plenty long enough to live. Marry me. Stay with me. Help me rule the kingdom. But he was on a quest to find the land of immortality. Thank you. And so he wouldn't stay. He wouldn't stay. But she also gave him a gift. I mean, it was a golden rod. And she said, if you wish for something, it will turn into whatever you like. And I thought that was a pretty good gift to have, something that would turn into whatever you like. So the next morning, he said goodbye, and he set off again, and he came to the river at the end of the world. And he didn't know where to go. I mean, he was at the end of the world. Where did he go from here? And then, as he looked in the river, these sort of sparkling lights began to twinkle. And he thought, well, where are they? Well, where are they from? Where are they? It was then that he looked up. And floating above the river was another world. Not tethered by anything, but just hanging there. And it was full of the most incredible lights. And he thought, oh, I wish I could be there. I wish I had a ladder, because I can't get up without a ladder. And that rod turned into a golden ladder. He leaned it up against the world, and he began to climb up the steps. He was almost at the top when out of nowhere came a 5-headed dragon. And it began to attack him, bent on doing away with him. But he got his sword out, and he began to fight. He chopped off one head, and then he chopped off another head. But as soon as he'd done that, another head grew again. And he was in danger of being killed. But all of a sudden, there was a great big whistle. And the dragon just went whoosh and disappeared. And when he looked up, there was the most magnificent woman standing at the edge of that world, looking at him. She said, "Who are you? Why are you here? What are you looking for?" And he said, my name is Prince Philippe. I am on a quest. I am on a quest to find the land of immortality. You have found it. I am the Queen of Immortality. Welcome to my land. Here you will live forever. And she welcomed him into the land of immortality, and he stayed there. It seemed like a very long time, but while he was sleeping one night, he had a dream of his father and his mother, and he woke and he wanted to go and see them. He needed to go back home to see his mother and his father. And he told the queen, and she said, "That is a foolish quest. I mean, you have been here, it seems, I know, only a few weeks, but you have been here for 1,000 years. Your mother and your father will have long since died and turned to dust. There is no point." But you know that, Prince Philippe. I mean, once he's on a quest, he has to go on a quest. He was determined to go. And she said to him, "Well, first of all, I'm going to give you a horse, and it'll be that you can ride like the wind. And I'm also going to give you a little bottle of elixir, the elixir of life." Now, you remember that queen and the 2 princesses and their fathers? Remember them? You should go back to them and see if they will help you with this quest, because I think that it's going to be a difficult one for you. Don't get off the horse. If you get off the horse, you will crumple and turn to dust. So the prince took that elixir and he rode the horse, just like the wind. And he rode that horse till he came to the land of Queen Carolina and all the princesses and their fathers. And he told them what his new quest was. Oh, they welcomed him, they celebrated him, and he stayed for a short while. And they said, if you have a problem, then we will help you. Now, I remember he had also had to give them the elixir of life because they'd been there 1,000 years already. They had already passed from this world. So when he gave them the elixir, it was a bit like Julie's porridge. They awoke and they were able to help him. So he set off once more from their land to the land of his father. He got there just as fast as you can imagine, but it was different. It didn't look, you know how when you go somewhere that you're very fond of and you haven't seen it for a long time and it could have changed and the people could have changed, and that's what it was like. He didn't know anybody. Nobody had heard of his father, and he didn't even look the same. He knew he shouldn't get off the horse. And, I mean, it was ruled by a parliament of people, and he just thought, no, I need to go back to the land of immortality. I need to go back to the land of immortality. He turned his horse, and just as he did, he heard a voice. Prince Felipe. Prince Felipe, could you help me? I could tell you about your father. I have news about your father. If you could help me pull this wheel out of the mud, I'm too old. I can't get it. Now, Prince Philippe, he'd been in the land of immortality, and he hadn't aged a bit. I mean, he was still young and virile, and he knew that he was strong enough to lift that wheel. And so he thought, well, I can't get down. I'll lean over the horse and lift it up. So he leaned over the horse, and he was just got hold of the wheel when a steely hand, clamped him on the forearm. And he looked at the old man who had suddenly grown taller and was staring him in the eye. I am Godfather Death. I have been searching for you for 1,000 years, and now I have you. You will be mine. You must come and surrender to death now. And as Godfather Death began to pull Felipe from the horse, he thought, help! And you know what? Everyone came to help him. All his people came to help him. The two princesses, the kings and Queen Carolina, and they got hold of Death and they held Death fast. Run, ride, ride, they shouted. Prince Philippe turned his horse and he began to gallop away as fast as he could to the land of immortality. Death struggled, and they didn't hold him fast enough, and he escaped and took off after Prince Felipe. He caught up with him, just as Prince Felipe had 1 foot in the land of immortality and 1 foot on earth. I have you now. I have you now. What? You know, it was just then that they heard a voice that came from the land of immortality. It came and it said, Death, stop. Death, you do not have any jurisdiction in this town. You do not have any jurisdiction here. Leave. This man is mine. But he's got 1 foot in my land, said Death. He is mine. Foolish, foolish man. You think we should settle for half a man? Half each? Let us have a wager. Let us have a wager. I I will toss him up in the air, far past the morning star, and whoever's land he lands in, he will be mine. Okay. Death and the Queen of Immortality looked each other in the eye and shook hands to seal the deal. He was thrown up, 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 up into the air, past the morning star, disappeared, and they looked up, and then a speck appeared, and he began to float back down to the ground. But the wind, it buffeted him this way, first over land, and then that way, over the land of immortality, this way and that way. He got closer and closer and closer, and he was just being puffed by a breeze over the wall of immortality into the land of death, when the Queen of Immortality grabbed him by the legs and flung him into her palace. Yes, quite right. He's mine, she said. Death, leave. And so that was how the Prince Felipe got to live the life in the land of immortality. But don't forget, there's another ending to this story later. We're going to go into an interval now, and we'll be about 10 minutes. Please help yourself to the bar. We also would like you to make sure that if you filled in the form, then we're going to do a drawing after, and we are giving away a, what do you call that? Yeah, a pair of tickets. I'm still in Felipe's. I'm still with Felipe here, in the land of immortality. See you in 10.
curtain is being closed, so that's it. Okay. So welcome back, everybody. I hope you got your peanuts and your nuts or your beers or whatever you needed. Ah, more people coming in. So I just want to take, I'm Barbara Fankhauser. I'm the president of the Storytelling Guild, and this is a, thank you. This is a production of Portland Storytellers Guild and collaborating with Fertile Ground, which is, some of you know about Fertile Ground, this wonderful arts festival we do every spring in Portland. And so they're both terrific events, organizations, and I hope you will support them in the future. The second thing I want to tell you about is we have 2 more shows before our storytelling season ends for the summer. Next month, it's called Sluggoyan. Sluggoyan stew. And it's, yes, it's whet your appetite for delicious stories with a simmering stew of entertaining tales. And that will be May 10th here at 7:30. Doors open at 7. So that will be a fun one. And then the following month, well, before we get to the following month, in between that show and the following month, we have what we call our extra. And that's where we have one of our best storytellers come on, and he does a Zoom show. And that will be happening on April 19th at 5 p.m. To get to his show, you go to the Portland Storytellers website, www.portlandstorytellers.org, and go to our performances, and you can click on register for his show, and you will be sent then the Zoom link to go to his show. And the name of that show is The World Was Always Bigger. And he tells us a wonderful mixture of stories of his past, his youth, and they're terrific stories. He's a great storyteller, and so and you can do it in the comfort of your own home, in pajamas. You know, that's the beauty of Zoom.
Popcorn and a glass of wine.
Yeah, a glass of wine. Yep. You don't even have to wear pajamas if you don't want. It's your house. So, and then finally, our final show of the season is going to be called Fate, Luck, and Destiny. And it's the group of storytellers they call themselves the League of Extraordinary Storytellers, those. And all the stories will be about luck, fate, or destiny. And it will be a really fun evening as well. And that is June 14th, Saturday, right here, 7:30, doors open at 7. So you have a plethora of storytelling events you can put on your calendar, and I hope you'll show up for some or all. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to draw, everybody filled out these cards. I mean, anybody have cards out there that you didn't get turned in yet? Because we're going to draw a card now, and the winner will get tickets to one of the next 2 shows, the Sluggoyan Stew or the Luck, Fate, and Destiny. Oh, they're all folded. Who folded them? Yeah, my gosh. Okay, yes.
Somebody was being neat and tidy.
Yes, all right. So the winner is Mary Ann Needland. Okay, Mary Ann. So you don't have to get up, but I have a question for you, Mary Ann. Are you able to come to one of our next 2 shows? Because if you're not, we have an alternate prize for you. So. Pardon?
The timing might be difficult because we don't drive too much at night anymore.
Oh, all right. So do you want to have the optional gift?
Which is?
A CD of stories from the Guild?
Sure, that would be nice.
All right. It's not a CD. It's a Eric, what is it?
It's an electronic download, and there are 13 stories by 13 different members of our guild.
Okay, so you'll get that, and then I will draw a second name for somebody.
Barb,
What?
just make sure you come and see me at the door, and I'll give you the card for it.
Mary Ann, go see Eric at the door at the end of the performance, okay? Okay, and so then the ticket winner for one of our shows is Leslie Hayertz, Hayertz. Huh? Ah, I see a hand back there. It looks like you have a brace on it. Okay, so we will have your name on our. Will you be coming to one of our shows the next month or the month after then? Okay, and your name will be on our list at the door, right? Is that how it works, Eric? Okay, he will email you. We have this with your, yes, email. So, thank you, Ann. And we have not properly introduced also, this is George. George has been with us now since, gosh, I think our first publicity photos we took with him were at Christmas time, and they're charming. If you want to see any of our photos with him, dancing with him and having tea with him, and we've done so many things with George. Anyway, he's a respected member of our team, and I just wanted not to overlook him. So, you probably want to hear the second half of this story that Anne was telling. Yeah. Okay.
Let me have the hat.
Do you remember where Prince Felipe, where we left him? He was having a dream. And he dreamed of his father and his mother, and he wanted to go home to see them. Now the Queen tried to persuade him. It's foolish. It's foolish. This land, you live forever. If you go back to where you started life, then you will die an ordinary man if you put your feet on the ground. I will give you a horse. You can ride like the wind. And so that is exactly what Prince Felipe did. He climbed onto his horse and he rode like the wind back to the land of his father. But when he got there, do you think it looked the same? He'd been away for 1,000 years. No. No one knew who his father was, and he was upset. They didn't even heard his father's name. And so he realized that now everything had changed, and you know, that they were ruled by a parliament of ordinary people now. No kings, no princes. He would have to return and live the rest of his life in the land of immortality. Thank you. And he was just about to gallop away when he heard a voice. Felipe, I could tell you word of your father. I could tell you word of your father. I knew your father. Felipe looked, and there was this old, bent-over old man, desperately trying to pull a wheel from a muddy ground. Beside him, a barrow. And I know your father. I know him. If you just help me put this wheel in that barrow. You're a strong lad. You could do it, couldn't you? Well, Felipe knew he could. Felipe knew he could. He could do it. He was strong. He had lived in the land of immortality. They told him 1,000 years, but he didn't feel any different. He was still had the vigor of youth. And so he thought, well, I don't have to get down from this horse. I can just lean over and I can help that old man lift that wheel and put it on his barrow. So he leaned over, stretched right down, put his hand underneath the wheel, and he was just about to jerk it up when a hand clamped on his forearm. Philippe looked, and as he looked, that old man suddenly stretched himself up and stared Felipe in the eye. I have you now. I have been searching for you for 1,000 years. See, in this barrow, look at all those shoes. I have worn out all those shoes looking and searching for you. And now, Felipe, I have you. You will come with me to the land of death. And slowly he began to pull Felipe. And although Felipe tried to resist, he began to slip over the side of that horse, and he crumpled onto the ground and turned to dust. That's different. Your choice. And that actually, I want to explain this to you because I was quite excited. We just went away to a storytelling retreat. And of course you practice when you do these sort of things. And I found there was a third ending to the story. And it was the shoes. My friend said to me, she said, "Oh, I know a slightly different ending." She said, "Well, you know, when he grabs hold of him, he says, 'Look at this barrow. It's full of shoes that I've worn out, searching for you for 1,000 years.'" And I thought, "Oh, that's good. I put that in my story." Thank you, everybody. So if you want to hear about the shoes, well, I know you do. You want to hear about the shoes now. Julie Strozyk.
How you doing? Strong silent type. Colin the cobbler was the best shoemaker in all the county round. There wasn't a kind of shoe that he couldn't make, and probably make 3 times better than any other cobbler. He loved his craft. He could have been a very, very rich man. Oh, he did on occasion make shoes for rich people. But, he was a kind-hearted soul, and if he saw someone who needed a new pair of shoes, or if he ran into a child who was outgrowing their shoes, he'd make sure that they got a new pair, something to wear, something to keep their feet warm. And he loved his craft. He loved the making of the shoes, the cutting of the leather, the sewing. I don't think there was a happier man anywhere than Colin. Well, one night, he was getting ready to go to bed, and he heard this great thudding knock at the door. He opened the door, and there stood Death. Death strode in. "You are Colin the cobbler?" Colin wanted to say no, but he was an honest man. "Yes." "Your time has come." Death reached into the sleeve of his long black robe, and he unfurled a scroll. "Yes, Colin the cobbler, you must come with me." Colin thought about all the work that he still had to do, the shoes that were sitting on his workbench that he was still going to be sewing up, and he didn't want to leave. He looked at the floor, and then he noticed, "You're not wearing any shoes." Death was somewhat taken aback by that. No one had ever commented on his footwear before. Well, no. Well, your feet must get very, very tired at the end of the workday. Workday? Death was not familiar with that concept either. Well, really, you should have. I'll make you a pair of shoes. Give me that scroll. And he took the scroll out of Death's hands, laid it on the floor. Now step on it, and I'm going to make a pattern of your foot. Death was truly taken aback now and didn't know quite what to do, but he stepped on the paper, and Colin took out a piece of charcoal, and he began tracing around Death's foot. It was interesting how the tracing of the foot looked a lot like a coffin, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, Colin picked up the paper. He said, "Very well. Come back in a month, and I'll have a pair of shoes for you." And then he opened the door and escorted Death out. Colin waited after he shut the door, feared that perhaps the knocking would come again, but it didn't. And so, over the next month, whenever Colin had a spare moment, he would work on a pair of sandals for Death. He finished them, and they were quite lovely. They looked a lot like Birkenstocks, you know? And about a month later, there came again a great thundering knock at the door, and Colin opened the door. "Oh, you've come back. Oh, that's wonderful. Your shoes are ready. Please come in." Death came in and sat down. Colin got the shoes, and he tried them on Death's feet. Death stood up and walked a few steps in these new shoes. He'd never had shoes before. Oh, my goodness. They were so comfortable. He couldn't believe it. He began to walk around and walk around. "You know, I've been thinking," said Colin. "Those sandals are lovely for warm weather, but I bet you could use a really good pair of boots. I tell you what, why don't you come back in, give me 6 weeks, and I'll try to have a nice new pair of boots for you. Do you want brown leather or black leather?" "No, black, I suppose. Go with the robe." "Okay. Anyway, why don't you just do that?" In the meantime, Death is walking around and around and around and around in the sandals, and Colin just opened the door and he walked right out. And so Colin began working on a beautiful pair of black boots for Death. He worked on them, again, kind of in his spare time, and when he wasn't working on them, he put them up on a shelf in his shop. Lots of people came in and asked about those boots. But he said, "Oh, no, those are not for sale. Those are for a very special customer." Well, 6 weeks went by. Then a great thundering knock came on the door again. And Colin opened the door, and in came Death. "So how are those sandals treating you?" "Very nicely," he said. "Well, sit down. Let's try on the boots." And so they tried on the boots, and oh my, those were even better. Death walked around again, and finally he walked out the door. Come back in about a month. We'll see what else we can make for you." Well, this went on for quite a while. And there was always a new pair of shoes, all kinds of different shoes. Walking shoes, athletic shoes. Oh my goodness, he had a wonderful pair of dress shoes, because of course, Death claims rich people as well as poor. And little by little, Death and Colin became good friends. Death would sometimes come and just sit and have a cup of tea and talk, and it was a really good thing. As I said, this went on for quite a while, a number of months, which turned into years. Finally, one day, thud, thud, thud came the knock at the door. And Colin opened the door, and in came Death. "Colin the cobbler, enough is enough. I have come for your soul. Colin said, my soul? Yes. What do you think I've been giving you this entire time? I've given you nothing but souls. And that was when Colin heard a sound that I would venture to guess no one in the whole world had ever heard before. It was the sound of death laughing. You're right, Colin, he said. You've given me nothing but souls. So I'll tell you what I will do. I'll wear all of the shoes that you've given me until I have worn out every one. Then I will come for the soul that I came here for in the first place. And Colin agreed. Because after all, Colin knew how well made his shoes were. He knew it would be a long time before death came back. And he kind of figured that by the time he did, he might be ready to go with him after all. And that's where death got all those shoes in the wheelbarrow. And now, Barbara Fankhauser.
Thank you, Julie. So listening to her story reminds me that in my story, there's also a knocking on the door, so death apparently is quite civil. If you were to look on your search engines for someone called Biddy Early, she would be there. She was a real person who lived in the 17th century. She was an herbalist and a healer, and women who did those things in the 17th century were frequently branded as witches as well. Well, the historic Biddy Early was branded as a witch, but I don't think she came to a bad end. And the Biddy Early I'm going to tell you about in this story was well loved in her community. And this Biddy Early, she was also a healer. She could go into the fields and the byways and the forests of her country that she lived in and find the right bark, the right roots, the right plants to take home to her to dry and mash into pastes and unguents and salves and teas that would heal the body, the mind, and spirit of man or beast. And everyone loved Biddy Early because of that. Well, everybody, not everybody. The priests found her a little too competitive. They felt she gave them too much competition. But even the priests would show up on occasion late at night to consult with her about some of their more difficult cases. Now, Biddy Early would tell you that she was as old as dirt. And one afternoon, she was in her little whitewashed cottage that was sat out there on the edge of the village, and she was sweeping her house, her front room, when a knock came on the door. Yep, she opened it, and there stood Death. And he looked at her and he said, "Grandmother Biddy Early, as you know, every living creature on this planet is allotted so many years, so many months, so many weeks, so many days, so many hours, so many minutes, so many seconds, and you have come to the end of yours, and you'll be coming with me now." And Biddy Early looked at Death and said, "Well, I knew you'd be coming for me someday. I just didn't know it'd be so soon. I'm feeling just fine, but I've always respected death, and I've lived a good life, and so I'll be coming with you now, just as soon as I finish sweeping out my house, because I'm not going to be leaving a dirty house." Well, Death looked at her and he said, "I don't think you understand, Grandma Biddy Early. I'm Death, and you'll be coming with me now." And she looked at Death and said, "I don't think you understand, young man. I have always respected life, and I would like death, and I would like a little respect in return. And if you weren't such a layabout, you'd come in here and help me sweep out, and we could be going that much sooner." Well, Death thought to himself, this is not a woman that I'm going to be able to argue with. And so didn't he come into her house and take the broom and start sweeping? But as you may imagine, Death was not really one for manual labor. I mean, what he did really wasn't what you'd call manual labor. And so he took this broom and he was kind of moving the dirt around, but not very effectively. And she watched that for a bit and she said, oh, no, you're not so good at that. Come into the kitchen. Perhaps you're better at cutting up vegetables. And so he came into the kitchen and she pointed him to the cutting board and said, now take that knife and cut up those potatoes and carrots for I'm making a stew. I'm not going to leave food behind. Well, with his bony hands, he wasn't any better at gripping a knife than he was a broom, but he did his best, and it was fortunate that he did not have flesh on those bones because there would have been blood all over the cutting board. Well, after watching that for a little bit, she said, Death, I'll tell you what. This is something I think you can do well. Go to my door, front door, stand by the door. There's going to be guests coming. You see, I'm having a party, a birthday party. My last birthday party, apparently. And the guests will be arriving, and I think you can greet them when they come in. And he looked at her and said, you want me to greet your guests? And she said, yes, I think you can handle that. And so he went out to the living room, and he stood there, and sure enough, people began to knock on the door, and he'd open them and say, welcome to Grandmother Biddy Early's. And they would come in, and they kind of look at him. But this was Ireland. They'd seen many strange things. Well, the house filled up, and the noise levels of people, the conversations, and just everywhere in the room with just people chatting and chatting. And then, a couple of bottles of poteen got passed around, and that brought the loud noise level even up more. Death, he'd step back kind of against the wall because, he wasn't much for small talk either. He was kind of watching the proceedings of all these people just going on, and then out came the food, and the stew was served, and then after that, out came a birthday cake, and the candles were lit, and the songs were sung, and the candles were blown out, and little pieces of cake were cut up and put on plates and passed all around, and Death stood there watching this whole thing, and then here comes a little 6-year-old grandson of Biddy Early. He's got a plate with a piece of cake on it, and he came up to Death, and he said, here, Death, it's Mr. Death, it's birthday cake. My grandmother's birthday is today, and this is her birthday cake. Death looked at him and said, well, as you can see, I really don't have any place to eat. I don't eat anymore. Well, he looked at him. He said, but this is birthday cake. Everybody's a birthday cake. Well, didn't he want to be a good sport? So Death took the cake, and he cut a little piece of it, and he put it in his mouth, and it bounced off the back of the throat, and boom, 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 down his rib cage, off the pelvic bone, onto the floor. And who should notice this but the children? And in no time at all, there was a line of the children, each with a piece of cake or a little bowl of punch or a little cup of punch. They all wanted to feed Death and watch what happened. And they were just enjoying it. Boom, boom, boom. In no time at all, there was a little soggy pile of birthday cake there at Death's feet. Well, about now, out came the fiddle and the drum, and the music started, and the dancing started, and the people were doing jigs and reels, and the floor was bouncing with their enthusiastic dancing, and it was fabulous. And all of us, and not sure who, but somebody reached out and grabbed Death by the wrist and pulled him onto the dance floor. And he did his best. I mean, he didn't have really, but he was, dancing as best he could. And by the end of that evening, everybody in that room had danced with Death once, and Death would dance with everyone in that room. But, as you know, all good things do come to an end, and Biddy Early and Death waved goodbye to the last guest as they left, and they closed the door, and Biddy Early turned to Death and said, now, Death, I want to thank you for giving me this last party, and it was grand, and I'll be coming with you now. And she reached her hand out to Death, and Death started to take her hand, and then he said, I don't know when I've had such a good time. I don't get invited to many parties, let alone fed and danced with. So I'll tell you what, I'll come back in a year. We'll see how you're feeling then. And so sure enough, a year went by, and Death came back, and the second time when Death came back, he was a little better at sweeping and cutting vegetables. But the party was as good as the first one. And so those parties have been going on ever since. And those people in that village are known for their kindness and their compassion and their wisdom. And if you were to ask them why that is, they would tell you, well, could be something to do with us, the fact that we dance with death on a regular basis. And, well, he's not the most graceful of dance partners. He's certainly no one to be afraid of. Oh, and those people, they also asked me to tell you, there's going to be another party soon, and you're invited. We're all invited. Thank you so very much for coming. And yeah, come back next time. Thank you. Thank you. Whew.